In the spring of 1989, 15-year-old Shelley Eaton moved into her grandparents' house in Redlands, California. 6 months later, on October 24th, a simple accident turned their quiet lives into a nightmare.
Pauline and Albert Amabile had given their granddaughter a room of her own.
Shelley and I have always been very close. She's a good girl, but she and her mother have not been getting along. And we just all felt that she would be better living with me for a while.
We loved having her there. She was a big joy to us. But one Tuesday afternoon, about 5 o'clock, me and my wife were sitting there watching television. One minute everything was okay, and the next minute, just sheer terror.
The call for help came in at 5:17 p.m.
Fire department.
I need an ambulance. Please hurry.
Debbie Whitlam took the call.
What's the problem there?
My granddaughter has almost cut her arm off.
How'd she do that?
Was bleeding profusely.
How did she do that?
I don't know.
How old is she?
She's 16.
She's 16? Okay, what is she doing right now? Where's she at?
She's in the kitchen. We have a towel wrapped on it.
You do have a towel wrapped around it?
Blood is gushing out of it.
She was bleeding to death.
Okay,
The right arm was cut to the bone, and it was cut so severely there was no way you could even hold the arm together.
Okay, ma'am, what you need to do is put a clean towel around it and hold direct pressure on it.
Lacerated arm. 801.
From the nearest fire station, paramedic Rick Linsky and his partner responded.
We got the dispatch as a laceration of the arm. We were probably out of the station within 20 seconds.
Are you alone with her?
No, my husband.
And she kept telling my husband, Grandpa, I'm going to die. And she knew it. But it was hard.
Oh, God, please hurry.
The people next door came on over, and they came and they got the towels, and they said, hold the towel, wrapped around her like a tourniquet. And that still didn't even help. The blood was still gushing out.
Ma'am?
It was unbelievable.
What is happening? What is happening? What is happening there?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, God. Lay her down and raise her arm up.
Is that her?
What?
Is that her screaming?
Yes.
Okay, and she's on the floor right now?
Yeah, she's on the floor.
Okay, what is she doing? Is she conscious still?
She's still conscious, but she's covered in blood.
Okay. Ma'am, I know, and it's going to be all right.
No, it isn't. She's a bleeding to death.
No, she's not. They're on the way. It's going to be all right.
Oh, God.
They are on the way. They are on the way.
God, they've got to hurry.
Where's she at right now?
They're here.
We were a little surprised to see people out in the street flagging us down and so forth, and we weren't expecting anything real serious. We were assuming that it was going to be a laceration of the arm versus partial amputation of both arms. She looked extremely pale. There was a lot of bleeding, a lot of blood coming from both arms, and she was losing it quickly. The cuts were severe. It looked like it went at least through half of the arm, right up to the bone. The bone was exposed through the cut. The obvious priority that we had on that scene was to stop the bleeding in both those arms. We took a roll of Kerlix, which is like a gauze, and we took that and put it against the area where the laceration was. And then we took another roll of Kerlix and used that to wrap the one that we had in place. We have what we call a trauma score. Certain information we have to give to the hospital so that they can make a determination on which hospital she goes to and what type of treatment she's gonna require.
Respiratory rate is 20.
Because of the tremendous loss of blood, Shelley was deteriorating rapidly. Without enough fluids, she would go into shock and die.
Okay, good, very good. Sir, hang back just a little bit.
The biggest fear was losing her, and that was the hardest part, that I knew she was bleeding to death, and I could lose her.
At the nearest trauma center, Loma Linda, Nurse Patrice Forges was warned to prep for Shelley's arrival. Dr. Ed Hackey was on call.
Dr. Hackey, we have a 15-year-old female coming in, was on a chair and fell through a plate glass window. And
the beauty of having these patients picked up by the paramedics is you have a few minutes to hear what the paramedics' assessment is on the radio so you can get everything ready that you're going to need.
Shelley's mother, Lori Eaton, her stepdad, Bill, and her brother, Todd, rushed to the hospital.
When I first heard, I wanted to be there right away, instantly. and do everything I could for her to protect her, to help her, to save her. It's just a panic. We arrived at the same time the ambulance did. When they took her out of the ambulance, she was just covered from head to toe in blood. I looked at her and she recognized me right away. She says, "Oh, Mom, my arms hurt so bad. They hurt so bad." This is your worst nightmare come true. Your worst nightmare. I was just so afraid that she might not survive.
Me and my wife were in shock. We were scared. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know if the doctors would come in and tell us that she was dead or she lost an arm, or we didn't know what was going on.
And then not knowing hurt a lot because I didn't want to lose her.
We realized from the paramedic information that she had lost about a quarter to a third of her blood volume, and we felt that she needed to go to the operating room as soon as possible. But the wounds take secondary preference. They could end her life if not dealt with. But also what could end her life even more is not having the blood to perfuse her brain and her heart.
She was in our department about a half an hour, and then she was taken to OR. We were going fast. We wheeled her as fast as we could possibly go. And then as soon as we got to the door, they were ready and waiting for her and took her on in.
One of the first surgeons called in was vascular specialist Dr. Lewis Smith.
It would be very likely in this type of an injury to lose at least a portion of both upper extremities.
While Dr. Smith worked on the blood vessels in Shelley's left arm, vascular surgeon Robert Brownlee went to work on those in her right.
She had multiple nerves and vessels that were severed. It was kind of a puzzle trying to piece things together. We found that she had severed both of the main arteries. This required a reconstruction where we had to take a vein from her leg and use that vein to interpose the section of the artery that was missing.
As soon as they repaired the circulation, orthopedic surgeon Robert Unseld was brought in to try to restore the use of her arms.
The anesthesiologist told me that he'd never seen someone who had lost that much blood still be alive.
Dr. Unseld concentrated first on the right arm, which had been nearly cut in half.
She had cut 2 out of the 3 major nerves that go to her arm. And this is probably the hardest part of the surgery. It's sort of like if you have a big cable like a telephone line, you cut it. You can't just glue it back together. You have to try to line up the wires so that house A goes to house B like it used to go.
Using advanced techniques of microsurgery, the 15-hour operation was completed.
The next time I woke up, I was in ICU, and I didn't realize where I was. And when I looked up, all I could see was like 6 bags of blood, and they're all going into my feet, and I'm going, and IVs are going into my neck, and I'm going, oh my gosh, what's happened to me? What's happened to me?
Within 3 weeks, Shelley's left arm was almost normal. Doctors expect she'll eventually regain 90% mobility in her right. Until then, she's forced to be left-handed.
But I've learned to button buttons and snap and tie, so I can do everything with my left hand practically, except for right, which I'm still working on.
Since being released from the hospital, Shelley has moved back in with her family.
And I'm glad that she's back. Me and my sister are real close there. I didn't really like it when she was gone.
This has changed all our lives. Shelley and I had argued about boundaries and curfews, but now that this has happened, there is nothing that we can't work out or deal with or anything else that comes along that we couldn't handle together.
People think they're lucky when they win the lottery. No, I think I'm lucky to have my life.